There is no mistake. Your father provided for his real family. You were always an arrangement. You are worthless.
Your father left you nothing.
There is no mistake, Nikki says. Your father provided for his real family. You were always an arrangement. You are worthless, and you are just kindness he extended to your mother's memory. Nothing more. The lawyer's office goes quiet the moment the words leave his mouth. Your father left you nothing. Grace Adeyemi's hands go cold in her lap. Across the table, her stepmother's lips curve into something that almost looks like grief, except her eyes are already counting the money. Outside the window, Lagos traffic crawls past in a haze of heat and exhaust, indifferent to the life collapsing inside this room. Grace does not know yet that a stranger in a black suit, watching from a parked car across the street, has just decided that no one will ever call her worthless again. Welcome to Seoul and Savannah Stories. Please like, share, and subscribe. 3 weeks earlier, Chief Bankole Adeyemi was alive, laughing at his own jokes at the head of his dinner table, promising Grace that the hotel chain he built from nothing would one day carry her name. 3 weeks later, he is in the ground, and the will that surfaces does not mention her at all. Barrister Ease reads the document twice, as if rereading it might change the outcome. Nikki, her stepmother, dabs at dry eyes with a silk handkerchief. Tund, her half-brother, does not even bother to look at her. There has to be a mistake, Grace says. Her voice comes out smaller than she intends. There is no mistake, Nikki says. Your father provided for his real family. You were always an arrangement. You are worthless, and you are just kindness he extended to your mother's memory. Nothing more. The word lands like a slap. Arrangement. 18 years of breakfasts and birthdays and bedtime stories, reduced to an arrangement. Grace looks at Tund, waiting for him to defend her, the way he used to when they were children sharing one bicycle between them. He studies his phone instead. That evening, 2 men arrive at the family compound with a moving truck and a court order. Nikki stands in the doorway, arms crossed, while Grace's belongings are carried out in black bags and stacked on the curb like garbage waiting for collection. The neighbors watch from behind their gates, pretending not to. You have until morning, Nikki says. After that, security has instructions. This is my home. This was your father's home. And your father is gone. Nikki's voice softens into something almost gentle, almost cruel in how gentle it is. You were always worthless to this family, Grace. The sooner you accept that, the easier your life will be. The door closes. Grace stands on the curb with 2 bags and 400,000 naira to her name, and for the first time since the funeral, she lets herself cry. She spends that night in a cousin's cramped one-room flat in Seoul, listening to a fan that does not work and a tap that does not stop dripping. In the morning, she puts on the only blazer she packed and walks into the headquarters of Adeyemi Hotels and Maritime, the company her father built, the company that should have been partly hers. The receptionist does not recognize her. Security does not let her pass the lobby. Through the glass doors, she can see Tund in their father's old office, feet on the desk, laughing with men she has never seen before, men in expensive shoes who do not belong to her father's world. He sold the Apapa terminal lease. A clerk whispers to her in the lobby, someone who remembers her, someone with enough conscience to risk a sentence. 3 days after the funeral. To cover his debts. What debts? The clerk's eyes dart toward the office. The kind you do not ask questions about, Miss Adeyemi. Please, go home. She does not go home. She has no home to go to. Instead, she walks, because walking is the only thing left that is entirely hers, down streets that smell of suya, smoke, and diesel, past the harbor where her father used to take her as a little girl to watch the container ships come in. She does not notice the black car that has been keeping pace with her for the last 4 blocks, slow and patient, until it pulls up alongside her and a tall man steps out. He is Korean, broad through the shoulders, dressed in black that fits like it was made for exactly his body and no one else's. He does not approach her the way men usually approach a woman walking alone. He simply stands by the open car door, watching the street behind her with an attention that has nothing to do with admiration. Miss Adeyemi, he says. His English is precise, accented, unhurried. You are being followed. She turns. Two men in matching gray shirts are closing the distance behind her, the kind of men whose job has nothing to do with conversation. Her stomach drops. Get in the car, the stranger says. Now would be better than in 30 seconds. She does not know him. She does not know why she trusts him. But her body decides before her mind does, and she is in the car, and the door is closing, and the two men in gray shirts are left standing on the pavement, frozen, as the car pulls smoothly away from the curb. Who are they? She asks, her voice shaking. Men your brother sent. I imagine he heard you visited the office this morning and decided you were a problem that needed managing. He says it without inflection, the way another man might comment on the weather. My name is Han Sung-jun. I had business with your father. What kind of business? The kind that is now in danger because your brother sold something he had no right to sell. He glances at her, and for the first time something flickers behind the flat composure, something closer to curiosity. You did not know any of this. I can see it on your face. I didn't know anything. 3 weeks ago I had a father and a home and a future. Now I have a blazer and 2 bags of clothes. Something tightens at the corner of his jaw. That will not remain true for very long. She does not understand what he means by it, not yet. He drops her at a modest serviced apartment in Victoria Island, hands her a key, and tells her, in the same unhurried voice, that no one will trouble her there. Then he is gone, and she is alone in a clean, quiet room that feels safer than any room she has slept in since the funeral, and she does not know whether to be grateful or afraid. The next morning, there are groceries in the refrigerator she did not buy and a note on the counter with a phone number and 4 words. Call if needed. Nothing else. She does not call. Not that day. Pride, the only inheritance her family did not manage to steal, will not let her. But 3 days later, when Nikki's lawyer sends a letter accusing her of trespassing on Adeyemi property, threatening her with police involvement if she comes near the company again, Grace sits on the edge of an unfamiliar bed and dials the number with hands that will not stop trembling. He answers on the second ring. Tell me. She tells him everything, the letter, the threat, the terror underneath all of it, that she is now a woman with no family, no money, and no protection in a city that does not forgive either condition. He listens without interrupting, and when she finishes, there is a silence on the line that feels less like indifference and more like calculation. Send me the letter, he says. And Grace. Stop being afraid of people who only have power because no one has challenged them yet. That evening, he comes to the apartment himself, the first time she has seen him since the car. He is dressed more casually, dark sweater instead of a suit, but the stillness around him remains, the sense of a man who has never once needed to raise his voice to be obeyed. He reads the letter twice, the way barrister E's read the will, and something in his expression goes very cold and very quiet. Your half-brother sold the Apapa terminal lease to a shell company 3 days after your father's funeral, he says. I have been trying to determine who actually controls that shell company for 2 weeks. Now I know. Who? A man named Choi Dae-sung. He is not someone your brother understands he is dealing with. Han's eyes lift to hers, and there is something almost gentle underneath the warning in them. Your brother thought he was solving a gambling debt. He has actually handed a piece of my supply chain to my most dangerous rival, and made you, the rightful heir, the only obstacle standing between Choi and a clean legal claim to it. The words settle into her chest like stones. So I'm in danger because of something I didn't even know happened. Yes. And you're telling me this because I would rather you understand the truth than walk into it blind. He stands, moves toward the window, looking down at the lights of the city. He has clearly spent years learning to read like a second language. Your father and I had an understanding, Miss Adeyemi. He trusted me with things he did not trust to his own blood. I intend to honor that, whether or not it is convenient for me. That's not an answer. He turns. No, it is not. Over the following week, something shifts, slow and uneven, the way trust always shifts between two people who have both been taught that trust is a weakness. He sends a car for her in the mornings when she has errands. He shows up at the small office space he arranges for her, the seat of a company she did not ask for and does not yet believe she deserves, a hospitality consultancy built on the bones of everything her father taught her before he died. He does not flatter her. He corrects her business plan with a red pen and no apology, and somehow that feels more respectful than every compliment Nikki ever withheld. "You undervalue yourself," he tells her one evening, reviewing a proposal she has stayed up 3 nights drafting. "Every number on this page assumes you are asking permission to exist. Stop asking. Easy to say when you've never had to. I have had to." He does not elaborate, and she does not push, but something in the set of his shoulders tells her there is a story there, buried under years of silence the way her own grief is buried under busyness. "I built what I have from nothing your country's law would recognize as legal. I understand what it costs to be underestimated and to survive it anyway." It is the closest thing to a confession he has offered, and she finds herself wanting more of them, wanting to know the man underneath the composure, which frightens her more than the men in gray shirts ever did. The danger does not stay quiet for long. 2 weeks after the funeral, a charity gala fills the ballroom of one of the city's glass-towered hotels, and Han brings her as his guest, a strategic decision disguised as an invitation. "You need to be seen as someone with allies," he says, adjusting his cufflink in the elevator mirror. "Your brother needs to understand the cost of underestimating you." She wears a deep green dress that Secretary Min, the quiet, efficient woman who manages Han's household, helped her choose, the first beautiful thing Grace has owned since the funeral. When Han sees her step out of the elevator, something crosses his face that he does not bother to hide quickly enough, and for a moment the air between them goes thin and electric. "You look," he starts, then stops, recalibrating. "We should go in." Inside, eyes follow them, curious, calculating, the particular attention reserved for a man no one has ever seen bring a woman to anything. Tund is there, of course, flanked by men in expensive shoes, and the moment he spots Grace on Han's arm, his composure cracks just slightly at the edges. A business associate of Han's, a smooth, well-dressed Lebanese investor named Khalil, corners Grace near the bar, charm dialed up to a setting clearly meant to test boundaries. "Han Sungjun's companion," he says, eyes traveling somewhere they should not. "I did not realize he had a type." "I'm not his type. I'm his colleague." Colleagues do not wear dresses like that for men like him. Khalil leans closer, and Grace takes a careful step back, but before she has to find the words to put him in his place, a hand settles, light but unmistakable, against the small of her back. "Khalil." Han's voice is mild. His eyes are not. "I would reconsider the next sentence very carefully." Khalil's smile falters. He retreats with a hollow laugh and a comment about Han being protective these days, and Han does not deny it, does not explain it, simply guides Grace toward the terrace with a hand that lingers a half-second longer than necessary. "You didn't have to do that," she says, once they are alone with the night air and the skyline. "I am aware." "Then why did you?" He is quiet for a long moment, jaw tight, eyes fixed on the city instead of on her. "Because the idea of another man speaking to you that way made something in me want to put him through that railing," he says finally, and the honesty of it seems to surprise him as much as it surprises her. "I do not know what to call this feeling, Grace. I have spent a very long time making sure I never have to find out." Her heart is loud in her ears. "And now? Now I am finding out anyway." He looks at her then, fully, the composure cracking just enough to let something raw show through. "I did not intend for this to happen." "Neither did I." Across the ballroom, through the glass, Tund watches them with an expression that has stopped being smug and started being afraid, and somewhere in the city, in an office Grace has never seen. Choi Dae-sung receives a photograph of the two of them on that terrace and smiles the smile of a man who has just been handed a far better weapon than the one he was looking for. If you've ever watched someone find safety in the last place they expected to look for it, you already know this story is only getting started. Hit that subscribe button, because what happens next will test exactly how far Han Sungjun is willing to go to keep his promise. The following morning brings a different kind of letter. Not from Nikki's lawyer this time, but slid under the door of Grace's apartment sometime in the night. No envelope, no signature, just a single photograph of her and Han on the terrace, and beneath it, in careful block letters, "He will not be enough to save you." She does not call him immediately. She sits with the photograph for almost an hour, feeling the fragile new safety of the last 2 weeks tilt under her like a floor she had only just learned to trust. When she finally does call, his voice on the line goes instantly, dangerously calm, the particular calm she has learned to recognize as the most alarming version of him. "Do not leave the apartment," he says. "I am sending Min. I will be there within the hour." Han, what does this mean? Who sent this? It means Choi knows what you are to me before I had fully admitted it to myself. A pause, heavy with something he is choosing not to say. It means I have made you a target in a war you did not ask to be part of, and I intend to make sure that decision does not cost you anything. When he arrives, he is different than she has seen him, the stillness replaced by something coiled and urgent. He checks the locks, checks the windows, makes a series of calls in low, rapid Korean that she cannot follow but understands the shape of: orders given, men dispatched, a perimeter drawn around her life without her permission and entirely for her sake. "You're scaring me," she admits, once he finally sits down across from her, elbows on his knees, hands clasped too tightly. "Good." He looks up. "Fear, used correctly, keeps people alive. I would rather you be afraid and careful than confident and dead." He exhales, and some of the coldness drains out of his voice, replaced by something rougher. "I should not have brought you to that gala. I wanted the city to see you as untouchable, and instead I painted a target on you that Choi was only too happy to use. You didn't do this. My brother did this, the day he sold something that wasn't his to sell. Your brother lit the match. I am the one who let you stand close enough to be burned." He reaches for her hand, an unfamiliar gesture from a man who has spent every interaction so far maintaining a precise, careful distance. His grip is warm, steady, and entirely at odds with the danger humming beneath his voice. "I need you to understand something, Grace. I do not know how to lose people gently. I was not taught that. I was taught to make sure I never have anything left to lose. And now? And now there is you, and I find that I am willing to burn down a great deal of what I have built to keep that from changing." His thumb moves slowly over her knuckles, and the room goes very quiet, the danger outside fading, for one suspended moment, into something that feels almost like safety. "I am not a good man, Grace. I want you to know that clearly before anything else happens between us. You've never lied to me. That already makes you better than most of the people I called family." Something shifts in his expression, raw and unguarded, the armor slipping the way she has watched it slip only in small fractures before. He lifts her hand to his mouth, presses his lips against her knuckles, and the warmth of it travels up her arm and settles somewhere deep in her chest. "Stay close to me," he says quietly. "Not because I am ordering it. Because I am asking it." She does not pull her hand away. 3 days later, the threat becomes a body in the news rather than a photograph under a door. A junior clerk at Adeyemi Hotels, the same nervous man who once whispered the truth about the Apapa terminal to Grace in the lobby, is found dead in his car outside his home. The cause of death officially ruled a robbery gone wrong. Officially. Han reads the report at his desk with a face carved from stone, and when he looks up at Grace, the message in his eyes does not need words. "They're sending you a warning through other people now," he says. "Anyone close to the truth becomes expendable to Choi. That includes you. What do? We stop reacting to him, and we start making him react to us." He stands, moves to the window, the city spread out below him like a board he is about to play differently than he has ever played it before. "I am calling a meeting. Your brother, Choi's people, the lawyers who drafted that fraudulent will. Everyone in one room, where I control the terms." That sounds like walking directly into the fire. It is. But it is a fire I intend to control, Grace, not one Choi gets to light whenever he chooses. He turns to her, and there is something almost gentle underneath the resolve. "I will not let anything happen to you. I have already lost everything once before, in a different life, to men who thought my love for someone was a weakness they could exploit. I am not making that mistake twice. The confession hangs in the room, heavy with a history he has never shared, a wound she has only sensed the edges of until now. She crosses the space between them, closing the careful distance he has maintained since the first day in the car, and this time it is her hand that finds his face, her touch that asks the question neither of them has been brave enough to say aloud. "Tell me," she says softly. "Whatever it is. I am not going anywhere." He closes his eyes briefly, as though bracing against the weight of his own memory. "There was someone a long time ago in Busan. A woman who believed I could be more than what my family made me. Rivals took her from me to teach me a lesson about loyalty." His voice roughens. "I told myself afterward that I would never again allow anyone close enough to be used against me. And then your father introduced us at a business dinner 2 years ago, and you spent the entire evening arguing with me about hospitality margins instead of flattering me like everyone else at that table, and something in me that I thought was dead simply woke up. You remember that dinner?" "I remember every word of it." His hand covers hers where it rests against his jaw. "I have been failing to stop thinking about you since long before your father died, Grace. I told myself it did not matter, because you were his daughter, and I respected him too much to act on it. Now he is gone, and you are alone, and I find I no longer have a reason good enough to keep pretending I do not want you." The space between them disappears. His mouth finds hers, careful at first, as though he expects her to pull away, and when she does not, the careful gentleness gives way to something deeper, something that tastes like every unspoken thing between them since the day he stepped out of that car. Her fingers curl into his sweater, pulling him closer, and he responds with a low sound against her mouth that undoes the last of her hesitation. He pulls back only far enough to rest his forehead against hers, breathing unsteady. "If we continue this, I cannot promise you safety the way I have been promising it as your protector. I can only promise you that I will never let go." "I'm not asking for safety," she whispers. "I'm asking for you." What happens next exists only in the warmth of lamplight and the quiet that follows, in the way his hands map gratitude rather than hunger, in the way she finally, fully, allows herself to be wanted by someone who has never once treated her as worthless. It is slow, and it is reverent, and when it is over, she falls asleep with her head against his chest, listening to a heartbeat that has finally, after years of silence, found something worth racing for. She wakes before dawn to an empty bed and the sound of his voice, low and clipped, speaking Korean in the next room. Old fear, the kind Nikki spent 18 years carving into her, rises up fast and ugly. He has what he wanted. Now he is making the calls that will arrange her exit, the same way every other person who claimed to love her eventually arranged hers. She does not wait to find out if the fear is true. She is dressed and gone before he ends the call, leaving nothing behind but the dent in the pillow and a silence that feels, to her, like the only honest thing left between them. Grace does not go far. There is nowhere far left to go. She returns to her cousin's cramped flat in Seoul, to the broken fan and the dripping tap, and sits on the thin mattress with her knees pulled to her chest, waiting for the old, familiar feeling of being discarded to settle into her bones the way it always has. It does not come the way she expects. Instead, there is only a hollow ache where his voice used to be, and the humiliating realization that she ran from the one person who has never once made her feel worthless, simply because she was too frightened to find out if he would. He finds her by mid-morning. Of course he finds her. Min has tracked her phone, and Han is standing in the doorway of the flat before Grace has even finished pretending she does not hear the knock, his expression somewhere between fury and devastation, the careful composure she has come to know completely abandoned. "You left," he says. "Not a question. You were on the phone. Arranging things. I assumed. You assumed I was disposing of you." His voice cracks slightly on the word, and for a man who has built an empire on never showing weakness, the crack is louder than any shout. "I was calling Barrister Adeyemi, the only honest lawyer left in the city, to begin contesting your father's will at 6 in the morning because I could not sleep beside you without wanting to fix every wrong that has ever been done to you." That was the call you ran from. Shame floods through her, hot and immediate. "I'm sorry." 18 years of being told I was an arrangement does not undo itself in one night, Sung-jun, even a night like that one. I am not asking it to undo itself in one night. He crosses the small room, kneels in front of where she sits, takes both her hands in his. I am asking you to let me prove it over every night that comes after this one. I told you I do not know how to lose people gently. I am learning, very quickly, that I also do not know how to let people leave gently. Do not run from me again, Grace. Whatever you are afraid of, tell me, and I will stand in it with you. I will not disappear into it without you. She believes him, the way she believed him the first night in the car, the way her body decided before her mind caught up. She comes home with him that day, and something between them settles into a steadiness neither of them names out loud, because naming it feels too fragile for the danger still circling them both. The danger does not wait long to remind them it is circling. 4 days later, Tund calls Grace directly for the first time since the funeral, his voice slurred with whiskey and panic. I made a mistake, he says. Choi's people, they're not what I thought. They want the rest of the Adeyemi holdings now, not just the terminal. They say if I cannot deliver it, they will take something else as payment instead. What do they mean, something else? The line goes dead. 3 hours later, Nikki calls, hysterical, screaming that Tund has not come home, that men came to the house asking questions about Grace, about where she lives now, about Han Sung-jun's schedule. By the time Grace reaches Han with the news, his face has already gone to the place she has learned to fear more than any shouting, the flat, deadly calm. They will try to use you to force my hand, he says. Or they will try to use your brother's debt as cover to take you directly. Either way, I am no longer willing to wait for Choi to make the next move. That night he does not sleep beside her. He sits in his study with Min and 3 of his most trusted men, maps and shipping manifests and bank records spread across the desk, building, piece by piece, a case that will not just defend his territory, but bury Choi Dae-sung under the weight of everything he has spent years hiding. Grace, unable to sleep either, brings him coffee at 2 in the morning and finds him staring at a single document, expression unreadable. What is it? The original deed to the Apapa terminal. Your father never sold it. He leased operating rights to my company 11 years ago, on the condition that the underlying ownership remain in trust for his children. He looks up at her. Your brother did not have the authority to sell anything, Grace. Neither did Nikki. Under your father's actual estate documents, filed and witnessed 3 years before his death, you are the sole trustee of every Adeyemi holding that matters. Though will Nikki's lawyer read in that quiet office, the document that called her an arrangement and gave her nothing was never the real one. Somewhere between her father's death and the reading of that will, it had been buried, replaced, erased the way the family had tried to erase her. They forged it, she says, the truth landing like both a wound and a weapon at once. All of it. Everything they took from me. Yes. Han's joy tightens. And I intend to make sure every person who participated in that forgery understands exactly what it costs to steal from someone I love. It is the first time he has said the word aloud, unguarded, almost as if it slipped free before he could decide whether to allow it, and in the quiet aftermath of the confession. Grace realizes she has been waiting to hear it longer than she has been willing to admit even to herself. If you've ever watched someone discover that the family who called them worthless was lying from the very beginning, you understand exactly why this story is not over yet. Stay close, because what happens in the next 24 hours changes everything Grace thought she knew about her own life. The trap, when it comes for Grace directly. 2 days after the discovery of the real deed, she leaves the consultancy office later than usual, the street outside quieter than it should be at that hour. And the last thing she registers before a cloth presses over her mouth and nose is the absence of Han's usual driver at the curb, replaced by a car she does not recognize and hands that do not hesitate. She wakes in a shipping container retrofitted into something resembling a holding room, cold concrete under her, the distant sound of cranes and water telling her she is somewhere near the docks. Choi Dae-sung sits across from her on an overturned crate, unhurried, almost bored, the posture of a man who has done this many times and expects no surprises. Miss Adeyemi, he says, in English smoothed by years abroad. Your brother's debt has become very expensive for everyone involved. I find it more efficient to collect from the asset Han Sung-joon actually values. He will not give you anything for me. He already has. Choi smiles thinly. He has spent 2 weeks rebuilding your father's estate documents, exposing forged wills, threatening lawsuits against my shell companies. A man does not go to that much trouble for an asset he does not value. He will trade me the Apapa terminal rights outright to get you back. I am almost disappointed in how predictable love makes powerful men. She does not let the fear show, the way she has learned, slowly, from watching him, that fear shown carelessly is fear wasted. You don't know him at all if you think he negotiates from weakness. Choi's smile does not waver, but something behind his eyes does, just slightly, the first flicker of a man realizing he may have miscalculated the woman in front of him as thoroughly as he miscalculated the man coming for her. Han does not negotiate. By the time Choi's men deliver their ultimatum, the terminal rights in exchange for Grace's return, Han has already spent 6 hours systematically dismantling every legal shelter Choi's empire depends on. Freezing accounts through the Korean consulate's commercial fraud division, leaking documented proof of the forged Adeyemi will to 2 journalists who owe him nothing but the truth, and positioning his own men around every dock property Choi controls in the city. He does not send the terminal rights. He sends a single message back through the same channel. You took something that was never yours to take, twice now, and I am done allowing you to believe there are no consequences for that. The retrieval that follows is fast, precise, and almost entirely silent, the kind of operation that exists in the gap between violence and inevitability. Han is the one who pulls the cloth from her mouth himself, the one whose hands find her face in the dim container light, checking, cataloging, making certain she is whole before he allows himself a single word. I am here, he says, voice rough in a way she has never heard it. I am here. You are safe. I knew you would come. Her voice breaks on it, the fear she refused to show Choi finally allowed to surface now that there is somewhere safe to put it. I never doubted that for a second. You should not have had to doubt anything, ever again, after the night you ran from me thinking I would discard you. He presses his forehead to hers, breathing unsteady, the composure he wears like armor in front of the rest of the world entirely gone in front of her. I have spent years making certain nothing I valued could be taken from me by being careful enough to value nothing. You taught me that the cost of that was simply never living at all. I am done paying it. Choi Dae-sung is arrested within the week, his shell companies unraveling under the weight of fraud charges that span 2 countries, his claim to the Apapa terminal dissolving the moment the real Adeyemi trust documents are entered into Nigerian probate court. Tund, facing both his debts and his complicity in the forged will, accepts a quiet settlement that strips him of any further claim to the estate in exchange for avoiding criminal charges. The closest thing to mercy Grace is willing to offer a brother who let her be discarded for the price of his own comfort. Nikki disappears from the social circles she once ruled, her name now synonymous with a scandal too public to outrun. 3 months later, Grace stands in the rebuilt lobby of the Adeyemi Grand on Victoria Island, watching contractors install the last of the new signage above the entrance. Her name now listed beside her father's on the company registration for the first time in her life, not as an arrangement, not as an afterthought, but as the rightful heir the law has finally been forced to recognize. Han finds her there at sunset, the same stillness in his shoulders that first drew her to him in a car on a dangerous street, except now there is nothing guarded in the way he looks at her. He takes her hand and leads her up to the rooftop terrace where the gala once put a target on her back, the city spread gold and glittering below them, and when he reaches into his jacket, his hand is not entirely steady. I told you once that I did not know how to lose people gently, he says, opening a small velvet box. Inside, a ring catches the last of the light. I have decided I am no longer interested in finding out what that costs. I want every morning after this one, Grace. Not as your protector. As your husband, if you will let me be. You already gave me everything Nikki said I would never have, she says, tears slipping free before she can stop them. A name. A future. A family that actually chooses me. She looks up at him, certain in a way she has never once been certain of anything. Yes, I choose you too. They marry in the spring, a small ceremony at the harbor where her father once took her to watch the ships come in, Min standing as witness, the staff who stayed loyal through everything seated where family should have been. A year later, in a nursery painted the soft gold of a Lagos sunset, Grace places her newborn daughter into Han Sung-jun's arms and watches the most feared man in 2 countries' shipping lanes go utterly, helplessly soft, the way he has only ever gone soft for her. She will never wonder if she is wanted, Han murmurs, voice thick with something he no longer bothers to hide. Not for a single day of her life. Neither will I, Grace says, resting her head against his shoulder, watching the family they build out of betrayal and danger and a love neither of them planned for finally, fully, belong to them. Not anymore. If this story reminded you that the people who call you worthless are usually the ones who were never worth your loyalty in the first place, drop a comment and tell me which moment hit you hardest. Hit that like button, subscribe for more Seoul and Savannah stories, and share this with someone who needs to hear that real protection looks like a man who stays, not one who simply shows up when it is convenient.